and playful and sweet.
Catherine Mazer was taken to a house on Long Island.
The name Reverend Moon never came up. I actually asked when I was first going with them to the site if they were the Unification Church, and I was told no.
An FBI analyst wrote, Moon's success depends on very subtle, deceptive tactics. Finally, Catherine Mazer was told about Moon. He was her true parent. It would be dangerous to contact her real parents.
Because they could be used by away the amazing gift of having met the Messiah, that Satan uses the ones you love to influence you away from the remarkable, unsurpassable gift you've been given.
She says the Moonies encouraged her to lie to her mother on the phone, not telling her where she really was.
But it was just important, whatever I told her, that I did not tell her that I was involved with the Unification Church.
And they were perfectly happy for you to lie?
I was encouraged to lie. I was asked to lie.
Catherine's worried family traced her to the house on Long Island.
And we need to see something.
I'm sorry, she's not here.
Okay.
I'm sorry, she's not here.
But you're not prepared to let Catherine see for herself?
They were too late.
Well, if you can't prove to us she's not here, then why should we leave under the assumption she's not here?
She'd been moved, but the Moonies wouldn't say where.
Oh, my. Right, you talk about it.
So you actually thought that your mother projected Satan?
Yeah, I thought she was being, you know, for all intents and purposes, possessed.
In trying to find you?
From the early 70s, Moon would be accused of brainwashing, mind control. Neil Salonen, once president of the church in America, says the Messiah never brainwashed his followers or cut them off from their parents.
Because we are family-based, in many cases, members for the first time began experiencing a deeper and closer relationship with their parents.
You're worried about the daughter. Okay, sir.
But when Catherine Mazer's parents arrived at Moon's mansion outside New York, guards called the police.
He's quoted as saying this is that we want absolute control of the mind. And to me, that means brainwashing.
And this brainwashing comes directly from Moon?
Absolutely, yeah.
So we should show up there?
Ex-Moonie Ron Paquette says he spoke to Moon's son about brainwashing.
Right.
And I said, in many ways, it reminds me sometimes of like the communist camps. And at that point he said, yeah, I know. He says, Father learned that when he was in prison camp. And I kept trying to make the point that, no, the way we bring in people and the way we control people is kind of like the way that this goes on in North Korean prison camps. And he kept saying, I know.
Belvedere was the first of Moon's magnificent estates in America. Once, it was owned by America's wealthiest families. In some cases, recruits would make over everything they owned to Moon, then go out selling trinkets at inflated prices.
I was sent out on the streets, sometimes for 14 or 16 hours at a time, sometimes in very dangerous neighborhoods.
Wandering big cities, Catherine Mazer lived on hamburgers and donuts.
There were many times where we were just on the side of basically a highway alone with hundreds of dollars of cash on our persons.
In the end, she decided to leave the Moonies.
I was told stories about other people who had betrayed the Messiah or who'd walked away. Something really bad could happen to me, whether it be illness or a random act of violence. I mean, I was scared. I was terrified.
Catherine went back to her mother. Others stayed, giving Moon their all.
They like to talk in the church about the blood, sweat, and tears of Moon. Well, I think, by and large, he's leaving off the blood, sweat, and tears of a lot of members.
He receives the treatment of a Messiah, and therefore we have the rituals of the court. And in this court, it is as pompous, it is as beautiful as being in the presence of an earthly king. queen, for example, the Queen Elizabeth. It's not Hollywood, it's real. That's the court of the Messiah. But after this is finished, he becomes a very, very ordinary man. He goes and digs his hands in the dirt, he examines pebbles, he goes into the mud, he goes and eats in McDonald's.
With this blessing ceremony, I thank you for that we build the superhighway to you.
The greatest honor for a Moonie is to be married by Moon.
It's like a pyramid marketing scheme, and it's embedded in the theology. You, in fact, cannot be married by Moon, which is the ultimate blessing according to their theology, until you've brought 3 people into the church who are ready to die in your place. Once you've brought 3 people in, then you have the right to be married. You have the right to be blessed by Moon.
He would even find you a partner, a total stranger.
I am blessing this.
Reverend Moon sees the family background and the future. So Reverend Moon is sort of a world's finest matchmaker.
Sometimes Moon would choose marriage partners from their photos.
Sometimes there's a picture matching, and sometimes the people, rows of men and women sit together, and he just picks you, and you're supposed to be husband and wife. And a lot of times, it doesn't work.
That marriage is far more durable and lasting longer. Of course, there's some breakages, but not like 50%, Western world.
Welcome to Blessing 97, World Peace Through Ideal Families.
The church claimed that millions of couples had been blessed by Moon in ceremonies from Seoul to Washington, even at the 2,000-room New Yorker hotel, bought by Moon for a few $1 million.
He looked down into my eyes, and I felt that he knew everything about me. And then he guided me to where my wife was already standing. And he looked at us, and then he just beckoned to us to go. And we went to another room and discussed whether we would like to continue with this match. And I really felt that this was God's choice, and I felt a lot of God's happiness and joy at that time.
Sometimes the matchings took a bizarre turn.
If they accept it, they come back in the room, and the first thing that they do in their relationship is they're given a kendo stick. And the woman has to bend over, and the man hits her 3 times as hard as he can with the kendo stick. And the audience then judges that. If you didn't hit hard enough, the man has to hit her again until the audience accepts the strength of the beating. Then the woman turns around, and she beats the man, and it's the same thing. So this is how these marriages made in heaven begin.
Moon seemed convinced of his own divinity.
But he was kind of like innocent in some way. I mean, he was very like a child amid all these big, important people.
Donna Collins' parents led the church in Britain.
You know, he seemed sweet at times.
Dream technology, yes.
Moon seemed anything but sweet to church leader Alan Tate Wood, summoned to his home in South Korea. A man lay prostrate on the floor in front of the Messiah.
And from that position, he made some kind of greeting to Mr. Moon. And Mr. Moon then barked something back. And they had a conversation. This man never raised his head off the ground. He was looking into the rug. And when this was going on, I began to understand that this is how I am to relate to Mr. Moon. And through me, they're teaching all Americans how we are to relate to Mr. Moon.
By the 70s, Moon was beginning to enjoy fame and fabulous wealth. In Asia, he was building an industrial empire, processing titanium and ginseng, making machinery and guns. Over the years, church income would grow phenomenally.
I do think that we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't know how specific beyond that I could be.
In the United States, the Moons would spend a fortune, buying hotels, newspapers, fishing fleets, and property. In a bleak Massachusetts town, they even made machine guns.